On a random day 12 years ago, I opened up my DS, popped in a cartridge I had never seen before, paired with some headphones I probably stole from one of my siblings, and played Monster Racers for the first time. I vividly remember this moment because the game did leave a genuine impression on me the first time I played it. But now I'm at the age where I've met quite a few people who have had DSs growing up, and literally nobody has heard of this game. Why is that? Let's discover it together. When I first tried to explain to people that the game was basically a Pokemon clone with 80 monsters with the changed gimmick of racing each other instead of battling, most people immediately dismissed the game, which I'd argue is a fair assessment given how I actually explained it to them. I settled on replaying the game in its entirety, hoping to figure out the true quality of the game unblinded by nostalgia. After now having finished the game again, let's go through it in its entirety together, and hopefully I'll illuminate to you why I think that I wasn't blinded by nostalgia. This game truly has a good amount to offer as a Pokemon clone, but in the ways that it sets itself apart, it gives itself a lot of room to call itself better than certain Pokemon games. So let's get into it together, okay? The game starts off with a really cute intro that introduces the main story elements. I'll give you a little spoiler, it's basically Pokemon. The world of Monster Racers, which is actually just Earth but with an extra star-shaped island, has tons of monsters. The monsters on this island, for one reason or another, feel compelled to race each other. Who's this hot guy? Humans, being humans, turn this into a competitive sport, and your goal is to be the best. You're then thrust into the character creator. Obviously, I'm a girl. Your character is a brand new monster racer who is just about to take his racing test, and you meet a few characters. Gang, who's kind of a pushover who is irrationally nervous, Sultan, who is just an arrogant asshole for no reason, don't worry, we'll give him justice, and Santos, a member of the Star 7, basically meaning he's the best of his continent. Now it's time to take our license test, where we will be introduced to the racing aspect of this game, which is its main mechanic. When racing, the game switches from a Pokemon-style RPG to a 2D platformer, where the goal is to reach the finish line all the way on the right before any other monster can. Every monster has their own special ability that they can cast a few times a race that boosts them farther ahead, and there are power-ups scattered around the map to speed up the process of being able to use that special ability. The race changes depending on where you are in the world, so like what biome you're in, so if you're in Africa, it's probably going to be a desert race. This allows them to add their equivalent of typing to monsters, as water monsters will obviously have the speed advantages in water biome races. It's all pretty neat, and offers a more engaging battling experience than Pokemon. Unfortunately, it does lose some of its ability for those who like to be super strategical to shine, but seeing as it's a kid's game, I'm actually kind of okay with it. Surprise, surprise, I passed my racing test and got a license. On the way out, a girl named Mizaki asks you if she can go on her adventure with you, and you begrudgingly agree. Also, who's this strange man? Wow, we've made it to the Star Island Zone! You took the plane to the first route of the game, and you find some kids bullying Gang. Apparently they stole his racer license, and you have to race the bullies to get it back. After putting the two bullies in their places, we move on to the first cup of the game, and look who's here! These cups function as the game's gym system, and I think they do so in a way that's actually pretty cool. The cups make you go through 3 races, one qualifying time, one semi-final, and the final. This structure is not only intuitive, but also really nice for if your monsters aren't fast enough yet, as you can go through the tournament and level up your monsters, which is more convenient than fighting encounters like you would in Pokemon. Woohoo! We kicked Zoltan's ass. Get fucking destroyed, Zoltan. We've officially cleared the Star Island, so let's just move on to the next continent now. Oi, we in Australia, mate. As we make it to Australia, we meet another one of the Star 7, Reinhardt! Look at him, he's actually perfect. Him and his brigade of fans want to race us, so we went into the mountains to beat him up. But we end up losing to him. You can actually win this race if you're a loser and waste your time grinding, and it does shock his fans, but he plays it off really coolly because he's amazing and I love him. After racing him, we go to the Australian Cup Open, and we meet Australia's very weak Star 7, who is the ultimate Australian. He says things like, "Stunk good," and he called Mizaki mousy because he's just casually racist. There's actually a cool little subplot here where Bruce, the Star 7 guy, thinks he's disliked amongst his community because they have such bad racers. Some of this perception, though, is immediately changed when we hear news that a bunch of people are stuck in a rainforest. Us, Mizaki, and Bruce all help out the people, and we move on to the Australian finals. After we beat Bruce in said finals, his peers all come out and show their support to him despite the loss, sealing this cute little subplot. For how fast-paced the progression of characters has to be in this game, this was a pretty cool storyline, and it made the experience much better. But now we're done with Australia, so let's move on to the next continent. Upon returning back to Star City, after single-handedly taking down the country of Australia, we hear news of some dark agency called the Astral Force. Whoa, spooky, but who cares, we have to go to Asia now. When we arrive at the Chinese Open, we are told we have to pay to enter. That's weird. Fuck, we got duped. Then we spend 10 minutes chasing around Dongjun and Rosalita, who keep insisting that the other one has our money. Hey, Dongjun's got it, not me. Hey, Rosalita's got it, not me. I wish I was in the Pokemon world so I could send my Charizard to burn both of you to a crisp. Minor rambling aside, we eventually catch them together, so we beat them one last time in a race and collect our money. Fun little fact, there's actually a bug here where if you click start and leave too early, you don't collect the money and the game breaks. How do I know this? I did it multiple hours into a speed run. That was fun. Minor inconvenience aside, we then move on to the Chinese Open and win! Yeah! Then we go to the Asia Finals and we're told that a kid has been kidnapped by the Astral Force. Fuck. We kick a bunch of Astral Force people's asses and discover that it was Gang who got stolen by Rosalita and Dongjun. But they got told off by their boss Edwin, who's like the top dog in Astral Force, and he's also one of the Star 7. He will be our man to beat in the upcoming cup. After we beat Edwin and completely ruin his ego, stoking a thirst for revenge, we return to the Star Island. There, we're put on TV, and I decide to be an arrogant asshole because why not? Now let's go to Eurasia. Ah! Our plane crashed, and now we have to make it out of a snowy forest, but fear not, we have the help of Tatiana, one of the Star 7. So we make it out after completing some ice puzzles. Apparently this girl has like no friends though, but it's okay because now we're her friends. Yippee! We go to the Russian Open and we meet Zoltan again, boo, but we beat him up. Then we went to the Eurasia Grand Prix and we beat Tatiana. Sorry! She actually has this cute little storyline where she feels like she let us, her only friends, down by not giving as good of a showing as she could. But we reassure her that she's still our friend, so she's kinda fine. I suppose now's a good time to put this out there. I really like the music of this game. It's got like a digital feel that feels fairly distinctive to this time period. This game was released in 2009, which is like a year earlier than Digimon Fusion, so a lot of the music sounds like the game music of that time. Case in point, the main menu theme. My personal favorites are the map theme, both of the opening themes, the snowy theme, the mountainous area, and honorable mention, the beach theme, just because of this comment. All of the music in this game really fits the atmosphere, and a decent amount of it is music I have unironically listened to outside of the game, so I thought I'd shout it out. Back at Star City, Bruce appears, and Mizaki calls him a bad racer. Poor bloke. Apparently there's some monsters who have overrun the city, so we have to get them out of there or something. It's pretty easy, so let's just move on to Africa. We go to the Nigerian Open, and there's like nobody cheering and everybody is silent. Some guy talks to us about how all foreigners are the same, so something is clearly up. They're racist! No, not actually. We win the tournament, only to learn that the Africa Star 7, Moses, doesn't want to participate in the tournament because a bunch of foreigners come to hunt the monsters there and have no respect for them. We're a different type of foreigner though. We're the protagonists! We go to chase after him in the forest, but get kidnapped and put on an island. It's all good though, because our monster tells us how to escape, because our monsters love us. After we race a couple of people and prove that our monsters truly do love us, Moses has restored faith in foreigners and is actually ready to race. We beat him, and he takes it like a champ, which is really cool. I actually think it's quite cool that they were able to find a way to fit a pretty grown-up theme into this game, though the kids probably didn't realize it at the time. The African continent has seen hundreds and thousands of years of exploitation and colonization that has ultimately depleted its resources in ways that has led its population to be less developed, and then the fact that they were less developed was used to discriminate against an entire race of people. The acts of the African people seem unjustifiable until you realize that they're really just protecting themselves. And I think the coolness and genuine morality of Moses hammers home the point that this is the case. These are great people, white colonizers just like to demonize them. Pretty heavy for a kids game, eh? Pokemon didn't even have a single black character for like 10 years or maybe more, and I stopped researching after I found this comment on a forum. Alright, political rant aside, let's go back home. Back home, Crystal, the North America Star 7, is causing trouble with her agent because she doesn't want to do an interview. She's apparently really hot, not as hot as Reinhardt, so she's actually a model and a racer. We convince her to do the interview, and she's just super dejected in it. She clearly has lost passion for the sport, and I would attribute it to her agent making her follow orders all day long. Her pain is ultimately understandable. Let's go to America now. In the Canadian Open, we see Gang, who is now pivoted to becoming a researcher because of how bad they are at racing. Fucking loser. Can't believe I'm still saying this, but yes, we win the tournament, and we move on to the North American GP. Oh wait! Crystal's acting out again, so we have to find her. This part of the game sort of feels like a maze, and we become Jesus for a little bit and go walk on water, which is cool, but it makes it really hard to track where you're actually supposed to be going because everything looks the same. Eventually we find her, and Mizaki calls her selfish for not recognizing how privileged she is to be such a pretty girl and such a good racer. I fucking hate this part. This is definitely the worst continent narratively. This woman has her life pushed and pulled around by an agent telling her to do this, do that, and we're supposed to accept that she has a perfect life just because she's popular? I fucking hate it. I seriously forgot this part of the story, so on my replay of this to get the footage, I was so certain she was going to fire her agent at the end as some sort of retribution, but she doesn't, so that kind of disappointed me. Regardless, after hearing Mizaki, she's willing to race, and we beat her, and it sparks her career again. Also, she tells us that the last two people are really hard to beat. Considering on this playthrough I recorded I was blatantly cheating in all of the races to save hard drive space, I kinda doubted her. Alright, let's move on. Back at Star Island again, we meet the hottest man on the planet once again. Oh my goodness. Oh, and Santos was there too, I guess. Basically, they said that they are glad we're so good because they were the only competition for each other. So, let's go beat up Santos. At the Argentine Open, all of the kids heckle us and say we suck, which we don't, and they continue to say that we will lose to Santos. Those poor kids are gonna have a field day when we destroy him. Or, actually, they're just gonna have a field day when Santos pulls up and tells them to stop being mean. It's kinda funny. Santos tells us to come train with him in the Amazon so we can both be at our best, which is certainly noble, but it was actually just a secret ploy to get us to fucking own Zoltan for like the 10,000th time. This time Zoltan tells us to never lose a race again because he wants to be the man to knock us down. He never changes. Anyways, we beat Santos and then we brutally attack those children. Not actually. We go back to Star Island and the old man says we're stronger than he thought and that he might need to start preparations soon. Mizaki seems sad at this information. I wonder why. If you've been keeping count, you'll know that we are now on our last continent. Off to Europe. At the French Open, we are greeted by an outpouring of fans cheering us on, which is confusing until we realize that these fans are just so bored with Reinhardt, the hottest man on the planet, continuously winning every single race, that they're now cheering for us instead. We win the French Open and go to the European GP, but Reinhardt is gone, so we have to go find him. Eventually, we search an entire fucking mountain and he's not there, so we head back, only to find him right there. He had conveniently timed his training so that he was the most prepared he could be, which is honestly badass. The race between us and Reinhardt begins, and he immediately cheats, which is crazy, but after winning, we're completely ecstatic. We're the world champions! And then he tells us somebody else has already beat him. Who? We head back to Star City and are bombarded, but the old man comes to our rescue and tells us to meet him at the grotto, where we will face our final challenge. We arrive in the grotto and Aku tells us that the legendary racer lies ahead, better than anyone we've ever raced, but first we have to prove our worthiness to race the best by beating everyone we've raced so far. First we race Gang, Zoltan, and Bruce again, and I fucking lost to Zoltan for the first time, I can't be asked. Then we face off against Edwin, Tatiana, and Moses. You'll probably notice pretty quickly that this is mirroring the Elite Four sort of style with just successive races, but the stakes of this are lower because your monster doesn't actually have HP that carries over across battles. But this is considerably cuter and makes the story really feel like it comes together because all the people you're racing are people that you've already learned about and care about, making it a lot more meaningful. Next up is Crystal, Santos, and Reinhardt. Unfortunately, I made quick work of them, and they warn us that they had already gone through this gauntlet once and failed. What lies ahead is the final race. Aku, the old man, builds up the suspense. It's Mizaki? Huh? She talks a big game and tells us not to go easy on her, and that she wouldn't do the same. After a climactic race, where I blatantly cheat to save disk space on my hard drive, Mizaki cries of happiness. She explains that she was the first to befriend a monster in this world, sparking the global racing phenomenon. When the world grew around monster racing and saw unethical treatment of monsters, her grandpa, Aku, tried to close down Star Island and the practice of monster racing, because he didn't like the direction it was taking. Mizaki didn't want that, so Aku made the deal that if Mizaki could find someone worthy of holding down the responsibility of directing the future of monster racing, then they could stay. Mizaki found that in you, tying the story together and leaving you as the true world champion. Now the credits roll. The story of this game is just so wholesome and genuinely really cute. It was so nice to be able to see all of the people we met along the way come to race us for one last time, and it was ultimately so much more impactful that the game didn't just end with us being the champion, but with us beating Mizaki and solving the mystery of the Star Island. In this way, I think Monster Racers has a more fulfilling and cohesive story than any Pokemon game I've ever played. Alright, well, we've finished the story. Is there anything else? Of course there is. This game has a bunch of races that extend beyond just following the story, and it also has legendary monsters to collect, which adds some extra content to the game. Does it have as much extra content as Pokemon? Probably not. Is it enough? Yeah, I'd say so. With all of this in mind, let's answer what I posed in the beginning of this video. Was I a stupid kid who had no taste in video games? Or was this just a poorly marketed game with a lot to offer as an alternative to Pokemon that really should see more success? I hope I've made it clear that this game is fucking awesome and deserves so much more justice than what it currently receives. As to why I think it might not be as popular as it deserves, I'd attribute it mostly to marketing. The game's marketing was interesting at best, at least on the English market, Marketing materials got the names of multiple monsters wrong, which didn't help to create a recognizable and nameable character on release. Explanation of game mechanics were done with such poor translators that I can't help but laugh, and the explanation of what the game was just really poor.
But the adventure part of it is going to be the racing part. Most of the game is going to be based on a single player game, so you can play the game as a single player, of course.
Basically, the marketing was just bad on the whole.
Speed up! Speed up! Whoa, yeah! There they go!
Which I attribute to be the reason that this game isn't known by many people, because the game itself really is great. Ultimately, if you're bored and need something to do, try and re-experience the magic that a 5-year-old me felt 12 years ago when I opened my DS for the first time to play Monster Racers. Give it a try. Have some fun.